Once upon a time, there were two wicked kids. The world would be safer if they died of SIDS. Hansel and Gretel is what they were called. They worried their father until he went bald. They wouldn't do their homework, they wouldn't do their chores. All they'd eat for dinner was ice cream and s'mores. They'd run away laughing after knocking on doors. Sometimes in their spare time, they started world wars. They'd often stay up until 2:45, playing video games or just watching TV. They tortured their parents, they tortured their pets. They hung out in alleys smoking cheap cigarettes. And one day were told that they couldn't drink beer. Gretel turned to Hansel and said,
"We're out of here." Clowns and ballerinas here and there. Clowns and ballerinas everywhere.
So they left their fine home that their parents provided. Their parents were actually kind of excited. They walked themselves through a few nice neighborhoods. They walked out of town and on into the woods. They walked and they walked until hunger had set in. They needed to find some poor fool they could threaten, someone to extort food from, someone they could rob. They looked all around for some unwitting slob, till they found a house that was way out of town, with no cameras or neighbors and no cops around. They were tired and hungry, and man were they beat, so this weird old house just looked good enough to eat.
Lollipops here, lollipops there, candy canes all over here. Oh, oh, how does the Easter Bunny come?
They knocked on the door, and to their surprise, out came a nice lady who was happy and wise. This lady had love beams that shone from her eyes. She invited them in for some freshly baked pies. She was very concerned these kids had no caregivers. If she'd known who they were, it would give her the shivers. When they were in juvie, up in St. McQuivers, they'd each shanked at least 3 other kids in the livers. But she didn't know that, and that's too bad for her, what monsters these 2 little malcontents were. And if she had, she might have still done just the same, for she understood that life's full of pain, that warps and distorts both the young and the old, and sometimes we all just need someone to hold.
Make it smoother, I don't know. Why do the clowns come circuses out? How do the tigers and lions shout?
So she fed them a snack, and she fed them some dinner. She showered them with all the love she had in her. She said they could stay for a night or a week. She knew that their home lives must have been bleak, to have driven them out to the woods like it did. She wanted to help and protect these poor kids. She gave them whatever she had they could eat. They ate up her taters and ate all her meat. She let them eat chips and she let them eat cake. She made all the food she could possibly make. And when there was nothing more for her to bake, the kids, of course, started to belly ache. They said,
"Give us more food, lady, that wasn't enough! Give us more candy, give us more stuff!"
I understand that your lives have been rough. You've had a worse childhood than Shia LeBeouff. My freezer is empty. I've given you everything, and what do I look like? Are we to friggin' England? I have no more money. My cupboards are bare. You've left me but nothing but this blank, vacant stare.
She had no idea that these kids were this shady. Hansel turned to Gretel and said,
"Maybe we should just eat this lady?" There. There. There.
They jumped her and beat her and started a-shovin' this poor, nice, kind lady into her own oven. She screamed and she cried as they turned up the heat. She gave them one final, delicious last treat. They gobbled and munched and their fingers were lickin'. They chewed this nice lady who tasted like chicken. She helped them and fed them. They burned her alive. But to their dismay, the cops just arrived. How did they know about this lady's fate? This story takes place in a high-tech police state, where satellites monitor all they can see and broadcast it on to police state TV. But Hansel and Gretel came up with a plan: throw the cops off their trail and stick it to the man. They'd say that the lady was evil and mean. She tried to kill them, so they vented her spleen. A murderous witch, they didn't beat her. She starved them, and that's why they just had to eat her. They explained it so well, this horrible scene, that Hansel and Gretel got away clean. So let this be a lesson for all who can smells it. All stories are different depending who tells it. A saint or a witch in the oven that day. If you weren't there, then how can you say? Who was it left in the oven to smolder? What we call the truth is in the eye of the beholder.
Clowns and ballerinas here and there. Clowns and ballerinas everywhere. Lollipops here, lollipops